Good evening and welcome to a summary of news at 10. Today marked the 63rd anniversary of the passing of late King Abdullah I, founder of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. On this occasion, His Royal Highness Prince Faisal bin Al-Hussein, the regent, visited the king's tomb where he laid a wreath and recited verses from the Holy Quran. Other members of the royal family, as well as numbers of senior officials, also visited the tomb where they laid wreaths and recited verses from the Holy Quran. The Chinese Middle East peace envoy Wu Sika, on a visit to Jordan, met with Minister of Foreign and Expatriate Affairs Nasser Joudeh to review the ongoing situation in Palestine, namely the Israeli aggression on Gaza. The Chinese envoy said his country supports Jordan's call for the United Nations Security Council to hold an emergency session to discuss the Gaza crisis. Joudeh and Sika shared the opinion on the need for an immediate halt of hostilities resulting in the death of innocent civilians. In the West Bank, hundreds of Palestinians demonstrated against Israel's offensive in Gaza and voiced solidarity with their brothers in the coastal enclave. In Ramallah, shops were closed today in protest against Israel's offensive. More than 60 Palestinians and 13 Israeli soldiers were killed today as Israel shelled a Gaza neighborhood. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas described the attack on the Gaza neighborhood of Shuja'iyeh as a massacre and declared 3 days of mourning. Israel alleged that Hamas had fired rockets from Shuja'iyeh and built tunnels and command centers there. Israeli army sources said 7 of the 13 soldiers killed were in an armored personnel carrier hit by anti-tank fire, and others were killed setting up positions inside houses they had taken over. As the fighting intensified, residents fled their home along streets strewn with bodies and rubble, many of them taking shelters in Gaza's Shifa hospital, where dead and wounded lay on blood-stained floors. Hospital sources said 17 children, 14 women and 4 elderly were among 62 dead, and about 400 people were wounded in the Israeli assaults. Minister of State for Media Affairs and Communications, Mohammed Al-Momini, condemned the terrorist attacks which took place yesterday on the border checkpoint in Egypt's western desert. Al-Momini reiterated Jordan's rejection of all acts of violence, regardless of the motives. He also expressed the kingdom's solidarity with the people of Egypt in facing terrorism that is compromising the security and stability of their country. Army sources said 21 Egyptian soldiers were killed and 4 others were injured during the attack on a border checkpoint near Libya. Cairo's foreign minister summoned the Turkish chargé d'affaires in protest over derogatory comments by Turkey's Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan at the Egyptian president. According to media reports, Erdogan called President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi an illegitimate tyrant. He also slammed Egypt's effort to mediate a ceasefire to end the conflict in Gaza. Erdogan has stepped up his rhetoric against Israel and its allies in recent days, describing its act as barbarism. He also criticized the U.S. and the rest of the Muslim world for failing to intervene. Over to Iraq, where troops and Shiite fighters patrolled areas of Tikrit as they launched an assault to retake the city currently held by Islamic State fighters. Christians forced to flee the city of Mosul by the Islamic State ultimatum traveled to Erbil and attended church services. Thursday's ultimatum by the Islamic State militants gave Christians in Mosul a choice: convert into Islam, pay a religious tax, or face the sword. Hundreds of families left the city ahead of this ultimatum. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki condemned the threats against Christians and the attacks on the churches in Mosul, saying it showed the extreme criminality and terrorist nature of the group. And in Libya, heavy fighting erupted around Tripoli International Airport, where rival militias have been battling for control. The airport standoff is the most serious violence in Tripoli since the 2011 fall of Muammar Gaddafi. Militias used heavy anti-aircraft cannons, Grad missiles and rockets in exchanges around the Qasr bin Ghashir neighborhood, trapping families, while several thousand others fled the fighting. Local residents and witnesses said at least 4 people were killed. The clashes have suspended international flights from Libya, damaged more than a dozen planes parked at the airport, and prompted the United Nations to pull its stuff out because of security fears. Iran has moved to eliminate its most sensitive stockpiles of enriched uranium gas under an interim nuclear deal with 6 world powers reached last year. A report by the nuclear watchdog stated that Iran had met the terms of 6-month agreement, which was due to expire today, but in light of some adjustment needed, the deadline will be extended. The extension underlines the difficulties negotiators face in settling the dispute permanently, even if Iran has met its commitments under the preliminary agreement. The special monitoring mission of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe arrived at the site of a Malaysian airliner crash in eastern Ukraine, and a team of victim identification specialists will be entering the site tomorrow, 4 days after the aircraft went down in eastern Ukraine, killing all 298 on board. Today, body bags were taken away to be sent home for burial. Fighting meanwhile continued. Ukrainian armed forces said Ukrainian positions were fired on from across the border with Russia overnight. President of Emirates Airlines, one of the world's largest carrier, has called for an international meeting of carriers to agree a response to the downing of Malaysian airline. He has asked for a potential rethink of the threats posed by regional conflicts. Tim Clark said the International Air Transport Association could call an international conference to see what changes need to be made in the way the industry tackles regional instability. Finally, a quick look at the weather forecast. Moderate weather continues in most regions over the next 2 days, while it remains hot in Aqaba and the Jordan Valley. Winds will be northwesterly moderate to brisk, stirring dusk in the desert areas. And that's it for tonight. I'm FARAH AJLONII. Thank you for watching and have a good night.